Welcome to that Trademark Life podcast. And today I have my very dear friend, Lex Kress.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you said yes. For those of you that don't know, Lex and I go way, way back.
All the way back.
To like when flared jeans were first cool.
Totally. Yeah.
I think it was like 25 years.
Yeah.
We
That's
were
crazy.
Campbell Collegiate.
I don't know how, because we're only 28.
I know. So we were friends when we were 3. I was just back in the halls of Campbell on the weekend, and we were there for a volleyball tournament. And I snuck around the school with Britton, and we were in the computer tower, like, you know, in like the way back.
Yep.
And I showed her where my locker was. It was so wild.
That's
and
a throwback.
It's all different back there. They have like a commercial kitchen. They have like fanciness. Like we had that big cafeteria with that little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. So then I felt kind of guilty because I was like, all the lights were off. And I was like, I'm probably not supposed to be in here. But good memories.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about like who you are, what you do.
I'm Lex Kress. I'm a realtor.
One of the best.
Lex Kress realtor. I've been a realtor this is going into my 9th year in residential real estate. Before that, I worked more in the corporate world. I got my business admin degree from the U of R and worked for nearly 8 years in the corporate world, and boots on the ground, was traveling Western Canada and representing a company that way. And it just was getting difficult with young children. And so I was looking to make a change and somehow ended up in
How did that
real
somehow
estate.
happen? Did you just like wake up and decide to be a realtor, or like how? I mean,
No.
I knew I wanted you to work for me for many,
Yes.
many years, and I asked many, many times, but that's okay. Now we get to work together now.
Yes.
But how did it
Everything
happen?
Comes together. Actually, I had met for lunch with a friend, Danny Wilson, who was a realtor and mortgage broker at the time. And her mom, Janine Wilson, was a pretty big realtor.
Janine Wilson.
Pretty big realtor in the city. And she was looking for somebody to kind of transition her business to. And one thing led to another. And I've always been interested in real estate and homes and design and all of those kinds of things. But it was one of those careers that I thought I knew so many realtors. How could I be a realtor too? And I guess working with an experienced agent gave me the confidence, that I could do this and that I could be good at it and learn from the best. And so that was a huge leg up for my career for sure. Jumping right in with her, I learned so much. And
Did you focus on new homes first, or was it new homes and resale?
It was mostly resale to start, and then I got into new homes over there as well with Crawford, and I worked there for 7 years, and then just last year made the switch over to Coldwell Banker Local Realty.
Such a good brokerage.
Yeah.
We were fun.
Yeah, it's the best.
We are the best. Okay, so you're working for Crawford back in the day. Did you have a preference between new home and used, or did you like both for different reasons?
Yeah, I liked both for different reasons. The new home construction world taught me a lot about home construction and what to look for, and it was a great learning experience. It was a lot different than resale. Resale is very fast paced. You're running and,
You just wrote an offer in your car.
Yes. I just ran out to show a house, wrote the offer in my car.
Came back.
Raced back here. New home is a slower pace typically. You build a longer term relationship with the clients usually because you're much
8
more.
8 months.
Yeah. Had
Minimum.
been a year, during.
18.
Yeah. During pandemic times, we were up there. So, definitely was a different experience working with clients on the new home side of things versus resale. But I liked both. And I liked that, I could do both.
And you still do both.
I do still do both. Yeah. I am representing Artemis Homes. That's more of a custom home builder in the city, a little bit smaller scale in terms of what they're building in the city. And then I am also representing Daytona Homes in Westera.
Yeah.
And that's just where I was. Westera is a booming little community over there.
I love Westera. I always say it's always windy in
Yeah.
Westera.
Well, It's always windy everywhere in
feel like
Saskatchewan,
it's always
really.
windy.
But
always windy in Westoria. They should make a movie about it.
yeah,
but
it is quite windy.
it's like quite windy.
We need some more trees over there. But
They're coming. They're coming. It's a good area for those looking in the north.
It is, and in terms of new home availability, there's not a lot. There's not a lot in the city anywhere, and the land is a little bit more affordable there. So if you're looking for a new home, that's a little bit more of an affordable option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I both don't live in the city.
We do not.
We live in paradise. Yeah. That's what I like to call it.
5 minutes outside the city.
5 minutes outside the city, escaping the hustle and bustle, living in a bedroom community. And I know you and I are both very passionate about our community. We are in, I don't know, we're like in the tri-town. It's like,
true.
It's kind of like the Tri-Cities. We have 3 really good communities that when you have sports kids, you're all together. You live in the heart of White City. I live in the arm of Edenwald.
Actually, technically,
I'm Emerald Park.
So I am
going to say,
you
are.
Well.
We can be RM friends.
Yeah.
I would love to figure it out one day where White City stops. And did you figure it out?
I know a couple cross streets, but it's a
weird,
intertwined,
such a weird place.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about how you grew up as a child and why you made the decision to live in White City.
Yeah. I grew up in the South End, SOD.
Nice.
Not to throw it back to that for all the Regina people.
Nicole, producer Nicole is NOD,
so sorry for you. Just kidding.
We love North Ends too.
Yeah. I've really got to learn all areas of the city since becoming a realtor. And I think that's one thing I love about Regina is every community has a different little culture and there's different benefits to every area.
People are very particular on what they're going to live and what they would live. And I just straight up ask them, like, are you a North Ender or South Ender, or are you a bedroom community person? Because they don't often, I mean, like, I'm sorry, Nicole, but like I had to live NOD for a year and I was like, thought I was living in Moose Jaw. Like, it was so weird. It was just outside my comfort zone. You didn't have all the cool things at the time that you have now. You've got a lot happening up there.
I like the quietness of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
But you grew up SOD.
SOD, yeah. I grew up SOD at Whitmore Park. I grew up on a nice little bay with lots of kids. And so, there was lots of bike riding around the bay and those kinds of things that I loved about that. And so, when looking for a house, being on a bay was important to me to raise my kids on a bay. I had really fond memories of
like running at night and just like basketball in the bay.
Biking.
And do your kids do that?
Chalk and all of that. Yes. Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, well, my son's all over the town with his buds.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's super fun that way. And then, we're right close to the golf course. So he'll call for tea time.
He calls for a tea time like a little man.
Calls his buds, okay, I got a tea time for 4. Are you in? And it's like, who are you? And what is this life? I want that life.
Yeah, that's so freaking cute and lucky.
Yeah, it's really nice to kind of see kids growing up like we did in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. Not to date ourselves or anything.
Because we're 28.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I find that our kids are growing up in a weird way of life right now. And I was on probably Instagram. Who knows? I'll say that I read an article, but it was probably on TikTok or Instagram, to be honest. But these people, there was this, she had to have been 8 and she was at the park by herself. And these people were said, like, call child protection services.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was 6 and running the park in our neighborhood with my brothers and sisters, and like no one was reporting an 8-year-old playing at the park. And I just thought that was so sad that the childhood has been really changed from how we grew up. And I do love in White City that we do have all those like little hidden parks and all this community. And I don't feel like people are calling child protection services on the 10-year-olds that are riding their bikes without parents out there.
It's much more of a community watch almost. Yes. Everybody knows everyone. You get that small town.
And then you get all the people that complain because it's a community watch. You can't get away with anything in a small town.
That's true. Yeah, there is a Facebook group that complains more about the teenagers and their driving and speeding and those kinds of things.
4-way stops, you got to stop.
Yeah.
Hard stops.
Yeah, 3 second.
Yes.
3 second stop.
Count.
But yeah, it's a great community, especially I've lived out there for 10 years now, and my son is turning 12 this year. So once he started to get into sports was really when I started to notice what a great community it is. Like you said, the 3 towns, Pilot Butte, Balgonie, White City, Emerald Park, they're all feed into the same, Prairie Storm, and they all go to school together. Yeah. And it is very much, you really feel that sense of community.
Yeah. I think that our community does a good job of like extending the boundaries. And then when they go to Greenall for high school, they already know the Pilot Butte kids and the Balgonie kids, and they're super excited to now all be together.
Yeah.
It's as annoying as it can be to have the only high school down the road from us, about 12 minutes, 10 minutes from White City. They do got to go to high school down there. I think it's so worth it. What do you love about the school systems out in White City?
I think the class sizes are a nice size. They're certainly not as overflowing as the city is what I've noticed. Sometimes they're still larger and maybe kind of at capacity, but I haven't noticed that they've been over capacity. So that's been nice. Of course, more and more people are moving out there, and so there is
our secret's getting out.
To be, we shouldn't be talking about this.
End of podcast.
Yeah, it's over. We'll change the subject.
Actually, we hate it out there, so just don't come.
You shouldn't move there. But I think, there is talks of a 3rd elementary school being needed in White City, Emerald Park area. There's been talks since I moved there 10 years ago that there needs to be a high school. So those talks are constantly,
I think they're on the table,
in the works. It's just a complicated
it's a mess
process.
Yeah. I'm sure all that's a hard decision to be made. One thing that I like about the school system, both our kids are at the old school, we'll call it. I love that there's so many teachers that are community members. I think that's really interesting and neat and different than what you'd get in the city. So, one of my daughter was sick, and the teacher was like, "I'll put it in my mailbox." And I was like, how kind and like how amazing is it that we have teachers that love these kids, not just in their classroom, but they love them in the community too.
Yeah.
And they see them out. I know like one of my kids' favorite teachers, I'll give her a shout out, Ms. Mina, can do no wrong in our house. Miss Mina is amazing. But she comes to the kids' hockey games and baseball games that are in her class.
Yeah.
And to see her, like the kids love that.
Yeah.
Like she's cheering them on at the Diamonds. She's coming to the spring scrimmages. Like just to have that connection as a teacher in your community. Teachers are amazing and we love them.
Yeah, that's so true. My daughter's in her class right now and loves her. And then even your middle and my oldest are in a class together. And her, along with a couple other teachers at the school, came to one of the provincial final games for my son.
That.
So like that also is just so incredible that they would take their time out of a weekend to come and watch kids
especially when they've annoyed them all week.
Yeah.
Like they still love them.
You still want to spend time with these kids?
I just think that's such small town.
It's so
Give
supportive.
back, supportive. We do live in the best community. I agree.
Yes.
When you lived in the city, did you ever hear about White City? Like to me, it was like this mystery area. Like I never even thought of the east side, went past like Maxwell Amusements. Like the waterside place was like the end of the world to me.
Yeah, I can't really
and now I'm like,
I don't know anything about it.
It's a well-kept secret for many years.
Yeah.
Until we burst it in there.
Yeah, it has grown a lot. There's been a lot of development, especially Pilot Butte. Like, Trademark builds lots in Discovery Ridge.
We do. If you want a great house, Trademark has them.
Yeah.
Call me.
So the communities have definitely grown a lot over the years. I think a big appeal for people is that you get more land for less money.
Yeah.
And also you pay less tax.
Your water can be cheaper depending on what side you live on out there. I think Emerald Park is cheaper.
It is, yeah. RM&B.
Do you know why?
Cheaper.
I don't know why.
I don't know all the ins and outs of the politics. I think maybe they serve a larger area. And
we are lucky.
I'm not sure.
We are lucky. We can water the grass.
Yeah.
But with that, my question to you would be, what do you think is missing in today's childhood that maybe White City bedroom communities can offer kids as opposed to the city? And not necessarily, the city's not a bad place. I'm not saying that. Do not write in the comments. Do not send me DMs. just not my lifestyle. But like, what do you think's missing in today's, as a mother of 3 little kiddos, what do you try to encourage them to do?
Yeah, I think that free play, that's what I see. My kids, they want to go knock on a neighbor's door. It's like, go ahead. I don't need to structure a play date for them. It's, go run to whoever's and knock on their door. And, if they're not home, they'll run back and say, okay, now we're running to so-and-so's house. And it's like, yeah, cool, I'll go do that. Giving them a little bit of freedom and that free play versus a structured play date. From what I've heard of or see in the city, it's a little different.
Yeah, I think that's what my kids on the acreage wish we had. I remember, I think it was Britain, was like, they have neighbors. Whoa, they can just walk to their house and like knock on the door. And to her, that's like a novelty. Like,
right.
So amazing. They just she just sees kids riding their bikes and she's like, oh, that's so fun. So acreage life does not, it has many perks, but having neighbors and the ability to just like wander the streets at night with your group of friends is definitely something that my kids don't have, that the White City kids and the Pilot Butte kids have.
Yeah.
It's definitely a point of topic in our house sometimes. So let's dive into Lex Kress, the real estate agent. What are some pros and cons that you see as being a real estate agent in today's world, a busy mom, business owner, all the things?
Yeah, I think a common maybe misconception is that people think you have all this freedom and flexibility, and I always say, yeah, there's some flexibility and there's not. You're kind of at the mercy of the market, what the market's doing. And
spring market.
Right now, there's low inventory, so something pops up, you're renting, and that's not very flexible. And you're sort of at the mercy of your clients' schedules too. Like lots of them work Monday to Friday day jobs and can only see things evenings and weekends. Of course, right now when there's limited inventory, we're having to say, okay, you might have to take a lunch break and run out and see something, just because that's how quickly things are moving. But I think that is a common misconception is people think, oh, you're your own boss and you have all the flexibility in the world. And it's like, not
to
really.
An extent, yes.
Yeah. Yes and no.
Yeah.
There's lots that I can do from home. And so that's nice that, I can be home in the mornings to see my kids off and usually home after school to see them home and be getting lots done, behind the scenes at home. But you have to physically go out and show a house. So
yeah, someone's got to open the doors and tell them all about the house.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do from home.
Remember in COVID, we were like virtually showing houses?
Yes.
That was a wild world.
Yes.
I do not ever want to go back to that. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was wild. What are some other ones? Do you have any other ones that are like, that you think that, oh, I wish people knew it wasn't like X, Y, and Z?
Well, I think like with any business, I think a lot of times people just think of realtors as making a ton of money. And I don't think that you realize how many expenses that there are to run a business. We're still running a business just like anybody else. We have brokerage fees and licensing fees, insurance. There's lots of expenses that go into running a business. And, there's only a certain percentage of agents that are doing actually quite well. There's quite a few that are struggling to make ends meet because the expenses are very high to get into this business. So I think that's another common misconception out there is, oh, you're a realtor, you make a ton of money. And it's not quite so black and white.
I think too, for people, they think that there's so many realtors that they can't get into it. Well, Regina is an interesting market to be in as a realtor, because I always say everybody knows like 5 to 10 realtors, but people will buy based on relationship and friendships. And if someone does want to get into that, it's not impossible to get into this business now. It just takes hard work, dedication, and I think going fully in on something and committing to it, because that's when you'll see the return on it, is when you dive in and tell everybody.
Yeah, or choose a niche market and focus on that. And, choosing to be maybe a little bit different or have a different specialty than somebody else too.
Yep. It's not a competition. There's enough seats for everyone.
That's right.
What's your 1 year, 5 year, what's your goals? Where will Lex Kress be in
Yeah, good question. Well, within the last year, I started a team, and that was important to me for...
Explain to the people, what is a real estate team and
Yeah.
why would someone start a real estate team? I'm not on one, but lots of people are on them.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that teams are structured, and there's lots of different benefits for people to join a team. For me, I was to the point where I was looking to have the support. If I do have 3 kids that were busy, and I didn't ever want a client to miss out on an opportunity if I couldn't physically be there. I also didn't want to have to drop everything and run in order to serve the client, and then I'm letting my family down. So it's finding that work-life balance. That was a big part of starting a team for me. And it's nice, I think, for me, for the first 7 years after Janine retired, then I was pretty much on my own and doing things on my own. And it was nice for me to start a team and have that camaraderie with others, and pick each other's brains. 3 brains are better than 1 working on something, and being able to kind of just problem solve, troubleshoot, get other opinions has been really nice too.
I love it. Do you see business as in real estate changing in the next 5 years, or where do you think?
It's hard to say. Yes, it's constantly changing. There are so many changes. Looking back at the 9 years I've been in the business, lots has changed. The base is still the same, I would say. It's hard to say, with what has gone down in the States, with their changes to how buyer's agents are paid. Are we going to see that come to Canada? It's hard to say. But I think everything is constantly changing. The only constant in life is change. So, I'm sure.
Did you get that, Nicole? The only constant in life is change. When my grandma was a realtor, my grandma was a realtor for 40 years. And that's how I got into real estate. She would tell me how they would take their offer, they would get in the car, they'd drive it to the buyer's house, they'd sign the offer, then she'd take it to the seller's house, and she'd either wait in the car as she met the seller's agent there, or she would go in, sit down at the table, face to face with the sellers, present the offer. Then she would go out to the car while they deliberated and talked at the kitchen table, and then they'd call her back in, and then she'd send it back. If it was a counter offer, she said it was the worst because she'd have to take the counter offer, go to the client's house. If the clients really wanted it, she'd have them on the block so that she could get their signature right then and there. And then if there was an amendment or phone call, she had to be at her desk because that's where the phone was.
The landline.
That was the landline. And then, an amendment or any price. It was just constant paperwork and driving and in-person meetings.
That's a lot.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a lot.
Just wild. And I'm I can't, I lose my cell phone for an hour. And I'm I don't know, dinging it on my watch, trying to find where it is. And she she was one of the first people to have a car phone though. And I was whoa, got in the car. Grandma has a phone. And then she'd be driving, and then she'd answer it, and we'd be talking and driving, a full-on phone with a cord attached to the car. Real estate is definitely different, and I never wanted to lose that face-to-face, though, so that we don't get too reliant on technology. I do love our DocuSign. I do love all the e-signatures that we can do, but we need to keep it.
It's definitely a people-person business. And
thankfully, don't have to run offers around.
That's a lot of time
and gas
money now.
That was a business. That was an expensive business back then. But maybe that's why they always said realtors had fancy cars, because they literally lived in their car.
Still feel like I live in my car, but maybe not to the same extent.
Same extent that my grandma Sharon wanted to do it on. But I think that you've shared from your heart, and I really appreciate that. And I love that you're in my community. I love that we were high school besties and that we still get to work together every day. And you're just someone that I totally love, totally respect, cheering for you. And now that you came over to Coldwell Banker Local Realty, we get to hang out, and our desks are beside each other.
Yes.
So when I was doing the podcast, the new season, the new rebrand of that Trademark Life podcast, sharing all things real estate, Trademark Life, mom life, all the things. I was like, who better to have than Lex Kress on this season? So thank you so much for saying yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I have loved watching your career blossom. You guys started Trademark when you were so young, and
babies.
It has grown to be such an incredible brand.
Thank you.
I love seeing your homes in the community and around Regina.
And as your neighbors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I was like, oh, thank God, Trademark's building. It'll be a beautiful home.
Oh, the best. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.